Hello, I'm Rangaroo.
And I'm Graham.
And we're changing things up a bit, casting some Steel Division 2 on this lovely Saturday from the Her Robot Monthly Tournament. We are on an Orsha East, and who is playing today, Graham?
So, Mr. Rangru, on the left here, we have Mr. Ghosty playing as Gross Deutschland. And on the right, we have Fury Tanner, and I'll just call him Tanner, and he's playing as 8th Infantry, and they are both Maverick.
Indeed, a classic Maverick on the
Mm-hmm.
classic of, well, map, so to speak. The other good Orsha map, well, there's only really two, and both are pretty good. We're seeing right off the bat here Spitfire flying over the lines, taking some nice pictures of the Germans as they slowly trotted their way up to the front.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard opening. I mean, I guess the Flak 41 out of Ghosty, things may have changed since I last was really involved with the scene. That can kind of be a toss-up, but knowing the air power that 8th Indian can bring to bear, it's not remotely outrageous to have it. Though it is a little bit far back.
Yeah.
And actually, it doesn't have a good line of sight either on the forward position in case he loses that forward spot there in the hill. So it can't actually really support that well in case like tanks something come up there. But it's meant to push back those planes.
No, it's a very interesting call in early on because it is a rather expensive buy at 120, and as you can see in the center, he is lacking quite a bit. He has two guys holding that entire hill, but down south things are getting a little bit more hot, as you can say. As you've got their flam troops rushing into the farmstead and being backed up by a Stark as well as some Panzer Grenadiers.
Yeah, and actually really nice smoke play there from Mr. Ghosty, dropping that smoke to go and keep the flame over for the squad isolated from the Vickers machine gun team. If he gets close to quarters there, obviously burn them up. So a nice little play there from him, keep that unit alive. Then up in the north here, we already see a Spitfire in the heavy-duty battle for this northern position, which typically the question is, how much are you willing to invest in it over the one flag? And I think it's obvious ring both players are going to put a lot.
Yeah, because usually, traditionally, with Orsha East, like this northern portion, if you lose it, you kind of lose it for the majority of the game because it's a very easy position to defend. So you really have to make quite a big commitment early on. Now Tanner getting some pretty good bomb hits, and even though, I mean, Ghosty has a superior force, it's just been a fantastic, use of high explosive firepower here to force him back.
Yeah, and like Ghosty, I think in theory, he does have the superior force. He has the Sturmgruppe with the SCG 44s, so we will see them do really well here in the CQC. Now, the Gurkha rifles do have two Brins, so unlike if there's an MG42 infantry, they can actually use theirs because they can fire on the move. Neither has a leader, which could, that could really tell you which way this game's going to go, or this battle is going to go, Ring, because surrenders are really in play here with no leader.
Yeah, and we've got that Pioneer troop slowly making their way to the front line, and with such a bunched-up force, you can kind of do the math.
Yeah, actually, nice little grenade hit there by the Pioneers, pushing back these Gurkha rifles and the Indian rifles. The one assault Pioneer up there is going to fall back as well, and we see an immediate infantry dump there from Tanner to try and reinforce because that position is now threatened.
Yeah, now it's really going to come down to whether Ghosty can get the Stug into position in time. He does have like a minute or two before those troops make it up, yeah, but of course there's always the risk of AT, and yeah, those Gurkha rifles do have some heat grenades.
Yeah, and also, Rank, I'm a little curious about Tanner's call out with it. So you see the commander, which, I mean, we're going like, what has it probably been 2 years since I think opening commander play was like really, really common in SD2. Yeah. But he also has two Crusader Mark IIs paired with it. And with no infantry leaders actually around, there's no real command chain for him to benefit other than providing the +2, veterancy to the Crusader AAs. But this is Gross Deutschland, and their air power is probably the weakest tab in their deck.
So, yeah, not a whole lot for him to pick.
Yeah, so it seems like it's a lot of investment right there out of Tanner in a very early portion of the game for a tab that, for the most part, doesn't have a lot of impact for the deck itself.
Yeah, you definitely want to have a bit more on the front line, actually affecting troops here, especially up north, even though it's a bit more risky, because you see the full might of Gross Deutschland is slowly pushing down, actually quite quickly, really, a blitzkrieg, you could say, out of that forest, and he's going to be able to capture his reinforcement column out in the open, and while, STGs and MG42s shooting dudes in an open field is quite a nice situation to be in as a German.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're Mr. Ghosty, this has gone almost as well as you could hope for. He brought his 81mm mortar there right up to the front lines. He doesn't really have a leader up there, so he can go ahead and keep that really accurate fire. But with the Stug with 3 there, there really is no getting back in there anytime soon. And I think we should see if Tanner will maybe get aggressive in the middle where he could have had 2 flags for the past 4 minutes now if he had just probed forward.
Wow, that's... Yeah, Ghosty hasn't brought anything. This is a very effective bluff from him of holding this entire front line with basically 2 infantry units. And that's just the problem, you know, you just don't have the full, you know, eyes on the entirety of the battlefield. So Tanner, there we go, he's starting to make the move after losing the north, and it should go quite well for him. He should be able to very easily capture his hill.
Yeah, but he also needs to make the move now, right? And that's where I think sometimes these games can be interesting, Ring, is that by allowing Mr. Ghosty to kind of get the double tick for a little bit, that's now pushed Tanner into saying, okay, I got to make a move so this doesn't get too weird, especially with the mirror incomes and how they can play with each other. But a lot of Tanner's points are in planes, which have had some impact, I would say a great impact, and then in his commander and his AA. So Mr. Ghosty, for the most part, has most of his units here on the ground. Though he's bringing another Flak 41. They'll give him 2, plus a Flak 43 up the north. That's a lot in AA as well.
Yeah, he's definitely getting himself... Oh, and also a Fokker Wolf 190, so 2 Fokker Wolf 190s.
Oh, you said for 2 fighters here. Okay, so this is actually, I think, a really critical engagement here, Ring, and nice moves there by Tanner, immediately recognizing the threat and getting them out of there. But these Fokker Wolves can really tear it up in the ground strafing role.
Yeah, especially if a lot of the Indian head troops early on aren't really armored. See, at 6 pound already getting down to half HP, and Ghosty down south, as you see, has actually done a fantastic job here as well, just completely mopping up his force. Once again, it's this application of firepower. He has tanks. Tanner, not so much, and of course, MG42's open ground.
Yeah, and you already see there, so the Fokker Wolves actually go by there. That exposes the Crusader position, so now Mr. Ghosty knows, okay, hey, he has AA out, and it's in some type of, depth to it. He has a certain amount of units with it. But that loss of the 6-pounder right there just shows you that when you cede air initiative, even for a little bit of time, against those types of planes, you can really pay for it, and that 6-pounder loss is going to hurt as these Civ 3s push up.
Yeah, this is very much going to put a lot of pressure on Tanner here to really win in the middle, because the middle of his map is, you know, the most critical area. It's a big bloody hill, of course, high ground, and sometimes you do see players actually push off the hill once they fully capture it, and that might be something Tanner may have to look into. You know, you set some 17-pounders on the ridgeline, zone it out, move in the horde of Indian rifles, and just try to go for it.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at the lack of investment by both players into the middle ring. Because like you said, this is the most critical portion of the map for the most part. It really does decide in a majority of games I've ever casted or played in. And the fact that both players have seemed really content to fight on the flanks. And that suits Mr. Ghosty for the beginning portion because he does have the worst side of the map. So to go ahead and kind of get away with not even contesting it for the most part is a big plus for him as this game goes longer.
Indeed, and we're seeing down south the Slug 3G using the long range with advantage. Not getting so much of a kill on the Sherman, but at least forcing it back. And if Ghosty can just, you know, keep his engagement down south, out in the open, set up good defense lines, it's going to be very hard for him to lose the 7 point.
Yeah, and I'm really not sure in the immediate sense how Tanner's going to get back in there, and I don't think he can. So he's going to have to just play defensive, hope Mr. Ghosty maybe overextends, but just try and hold those flags. And his best bet, I really think, is a lot of pressure in the middle on that hill, and then you can use the hill to kind of push downwards. And we also see artillery with the 114s being called out by Tanner. Excellent choice for only 80 points, Rang. And if he can get the artillery advantage going early, it can kind of like negate some of these advances Ghosty's making.
100%. If you get that 114mm battery out, you can start very effectively counter-battering the 88 mils, which of course allows you to use your aircraft a bit more effectively. You're seeing Spitfires dropping their load in some Sturm Grouper, but, you know, they are taking a little bit of suppressing damage, so they're not as accurate.
Yeah, and I also think that, you know, if we look at the map here, you zoom out, there's a lot of support equipment for Mr. Ghosty. So we do see Panzer Grenadiers and half-tracks now being committed into the middle, so we'll have to see how much damage they can actually get done here. Yeah, those are all Panzer Grens. But these are, you know, there's 2 flat 41s, there's 2 flat 43s, and a mortar out here. So Tanner does have a little bit, I think, of leeway if he wants to really dip into that arty tab, since I think his Air Force is going to be kind of out of it for the near future.
Yeah, especially with Maverick, Vanguard type incomes, you really want to be buying all your expensive stuff. Well, right about now as we get into B phase here. And this is really going to be the critical portion. Not so much, I'd say, in just taking territory. It's only at a
Right.
+1 bleed, which is recoverable. But just, especially with an artillery spam deck, getting all the artillery guns out so you can just pound the hell out of, well, Ghosty's rather static defensive line.
Yeah, and now the Hummel has been brought out here by Mr. Ghosty, so he will be able to engage in some counter battery play. We'll have to see how successful it is and how quick he is on his own micro, because Tanner has 3 of the 114s out, and he has a whole nother card of them in B. And the B card obviously has the supply attached to it, but for the most part, it's cheap for how good the gun is. So he's going to need to be careful. Oh, this A6 is going to die.
Ooh.
Yep.
And there goes down, well, a third of the German air power, right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, a third of it instantly gone, and that's only kind of like why I question maybe the early call out of that from Tanner. I don't disagree with it. It's just it's a little early for a deck that doesn't have a lot of air power, as we can clearly witness there. But we see these Mr. Ghosty stacking up some Panzer Grenadiers in these half tracks, but he isn't quite willing to commit them just yet.
Yeah, he just doesn't
and
have enough firepower, it seems, to really try to take that town. He needs to start pounding it, which I believe is what... Is that what the Hummel's doing? No, he's pounding up north, actually.
The Hummel's actually going up north, which I'm really surprised by that move. I understand wanting to kill those units right there, but unless, Mr. Ghosty thinks he can just push across that open field, take another flag right there, which could just be the aspect of, hey, I want a double tick, right, Rang? But at the same time, we see all 3 of these 114s. They know where that flag 43 is, and they're dropping some heat right now.
Oh,
only the direct hits. It's going to die. Yeah, if he doesn't, he had quick fallback order there. But these next couple salvos, and now Tanner knows because he was so accurate with his shots there, his Spitfires can get in.
Yep.
Now, you'll see the flag 41's able to stop anyway. I don't think it might be able to stop one of them. Yeah.
Very effective Road War 2 era seed play, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that is that is what we're... And honestly, from there, Mr. Ghosty, and this is where you get kind of like a little outlandish with some of the, maybe the skill aspect, but it'd almost be better to stop the Flak 41 from firing right there, because now the immediate response will be the 4 and 14s are going to target the 88. And so he's going to systematically use them to try and pick off his AA to get his air power in game. And I think this is probably the time where Mr. Ghosty needs to either push somewhere or really start to counter battery these with 14 pieces.
Yeah, trying to push in the center would be his best bet, as he still has somewhat of a foothold left in that hill. He just needs some armored support, like a Tiger tank, for example, to maybe help him out and give him the heavy breakthrough shot he needs.
Yeah, because artillery starts to get out of control. Even when you're ahead, it starts to feel like you're losing, right? Because your units are getting picked off, even though, as we see here, it is a 14-10 for Mr. Ghosty. But I don't like the amount of just raw reinforcement he keeps dumping up here into the north. We see 2 more MG42 squads here. There's still a lot of infantry, and his Hummel keeps firing away at those guys. I just think that's kind of a little bit of a misallocation of resources when he could... If he could push the middle and get that one flag, it's a 15-9, and this game is completely different.
100%. Yeah, it seems like he's just trying to build his own, like, rest roll up north, just extremely heavy defensive lines.
The Siegfried line.
Gonna hang up a Russian there one day.
Yeah.
But it's also just having them all at the front. It'd probably be a good idea to have a few of those units in the back, just as reserves, because if the enemy is going to push up north, they're just going to barrage at hell with use north map against the front of that forest before even moving up.
Yeah, absolutely. On the flip side of that, too, though, Rang, I'm kind of curious why we haven't seen more aggression from Tanner. Obviously, he's put a lot into support equipment, but, on the middle here, if he could take that other middle flag, it just puts him in a really good position for the long game. Because sometimes Maverick on Maverick and UCastle IC2, they can go a while.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really just set up like that, the artillery can really get you the dub there in those, like, what do they used to call them? Balverick decks, right? It's a balanced Maverick deck.
Yeah. You just go aggressive early on and hope for the best.
Yeah, I can't play that way.
Oh, no.
That's definitely not my style at all. But I miss where Vanguard was the deck, right? But also the Indian infantry leader died up north, And we see, so there we go. So Mr. Ghosty is now flexing these units up onto the hill, which I like that move. Get them up along the ridge. Maybe make some backline shenanigans, which you could sometimes happen. But he doesn't have any raider infantry, so that's kind of limited since it just pushed the front line.
It's meant to get him into a good defensive position in the town at least, but that's still really only a flanking position. He needs a good, force of troops to just go right up the middle. And he's bringing the Tiger up here. Fortunately, not a whole lot of well, okay, let's see some PH here, but at the end of the day, they are still just PH. But he needs like a good group of like Sturm Groupers, some CQC stuff to just rush right up the middle, cover for the Tiger, and then just go ham with machine gun fire.
Yeah, could be critical in the middle here, but the problem is that at this range, now, especially if it gets into the town ring, you open yourself up to APCR pins from the 6-pounder, and like we talked about before the cast, the random crits that you can get. But there's a 17-pounder coming. So Tanner kind of, I think, he expects an armor push in the middle or somewhere in that direction. And the 17-pounder, especially like sub 1750, 1500 meters, it just eats Tigers alive.
100%. Well, up north, we're actually seeing a bit of a push here from Ghosty, but actually hooking his way down south a bit.
Yeah.
Seems like he's just trying to either circumvent the hill to like really push down south here and make it as the main force, or try to push a bit more east and try to capture a flag or two out in the open.
Yeah, I imagine he's hoping he can capture the flag at least, even if it's temporary, there in the farmstead. Because at this point, I think if you're Mr. Ghosty, the sooner you end this game, the better. You don't want to let a player like Tanner hang around, especially with the amount of artillery he has available to him. So the sooner you can put this safely into your corner, the better off you are. So I actually kind of like that move. He's not like, charging the open like it's World War I, right? He's pushing the force here, utilizing the superiority of his CQC infantry here. And Tanner might have a hard time stopping that. He might want to allocate his artillery to maybe suppress some of that.
Yeah, this is actually a really cool push. I don't see many players like push like his angle once they capture the northern side to just usually completely forget about it. But it does open up a lot of opportunities, and as you see, it's really opened up a weak point here in Tanner's lines. Now he's having to reallocate units, like he's moving the 17-pounder into that position to try to stop this like death ball of, well, Sturmgewehrs and bundle grenades.
Yeah, and the rifles Piet there, they'll just die. I mean, we see, what's that, 2 Ghost Deutschland Pioneers and 2 Sturmgruppen. Oh, but the Sturmgruppers are low HP. So that's one value, or, one benefit there to Tanner, but there's still enough firepower here to wipe out the rifles Piet. Yeah. So he's just not, like, Tanner's not going to win those fights for the most part, and he'll trade inefficiently doing it. Tanner's strength is going to rely on the raw amount of firepower his deck can bring to bear, not in CQC infantry fights with Ghost Deutschland.
Yeah, he is already getting one of his artillery guns to aim for that area.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's one benefit for him, is that it's a rather narrow choke point of forest. So if he can just hold him for a minute or two, Sturm Groupers are gonna fall into little bit of pieces.
And actually the Hummels are open firing on the Crusader AA pieces. Tanner never moved them. The commander's in a really delicate spot here. Okay, so he's aiming just behind it. It's when, you hate your artillery is a little too accurate. Because it was a little inaccurate. It might have hit the little dingo right there. But Tanner investing a ton of stuff down South Ring.
Yeah, it seems like he's trying to reopen his push. I mean, honestly, he has like a decent angle because he still has that southern hill under control. You control that, slap a 17-pounder up here, and then you just try to, break through that little open area into the, crossroad forest. He also gives you the foothold.
He also killed both the Stugs, which is big, but the 17-pounders are going to push up and try, and there's no armor actually there for him really to push back. So it's actually kind of a misallocation because there's 3 17-pounders down here, whereas at the same time, the attack in the middle is going in, and I don't know if he has enough here to stop it. Where's the 17? It's okay, it's pushed up, but it doesn't have a good angle here for the Tiger on the road. These half-tracks are just suppressing all of this infantry.
Yeah, this is getting quite kinetic now as we, enter into the Trilator B phase. It's really just action going on all over the place.
Yeah, and we see another artillery piece bought out here by Tanner. He needs the supplies as well, so I'm sure that's part of the reason he's buying it. But this push in the center this could be a game-winning move here by Ghosty. It all really matters if it connects. So we see a shot hit the Tiger. It's a bounce. Artillery fire was good. So we see all those Panzer guns pushing back rank. And now the Tiger's duking it out with the 6-pounder. but I think it's outside of it's just outside of APCR range.
Ah, you need to take a lesson from North Africa and aim for like the turret ring.
Yeah, absolutely. The Tiger for one of the few times in the game it feels invincible right there.
Yes, there's no T-3485 to stop it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so we see right here. Yeah, this is looking, I think, really bad for Tanner here in the middle. The artillery is keeping him in the game. It's keeping him alive, and it might let him net this flag here down south. But the raw amount of German firepower coming out right now is insane.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff going in the middle. Support half tracks, the stern groups. It's just like Blitzkrieg 1941 mode.
It feels like someone was banking some points. That's the vibe I get. And it's going middle, and that's where it should go. So you got Sturmgruppe coming up, so we'll get some CQC infantry here. You have the half tracks with the 75 mils right there. That's a really cool unit. I think they added to the game. It can be kind of annoying as well. There are rifles Piet, but we all know how the Piet is, right?
Yeah, it roll. Well, you really have to use it more of like a bayonet to actually have a chance to hit anything.
It'll hit 1 out of 3 shots.
Yes. But no, this is perfect because Tanner's, been allocating a lot of resources down south. He's slowly making a push there, but we're also in a path for being brought on into.
Oh, the Piet shooting! Piet shooting! Piet misses!
Of course.
He finally gets it there.
It
actually was 1 of 3. Oh, it did better that time.
Will they hold? The Sturmgruppers need to come through?
Yeah, he needs a Sturmgruppe to push up here, get inside the town right here, and start fighting it out with him. Nice little stop there. The Piet does, contrary to our, shit-talking of it there for a second, it does get 2 kills on it for no loss. Oh, and he gets the Sturmgruppe in the open here, so that's a little bit better.
He's going to get into Piet range.
Oh, the Tiger is, you're right. Tanner needs to see it and move it into the church tower.
Yep.
I don't think he noticed his ring.
It's a crying shame.
No, he's still in range here if he puts it in the tower. But the half-tracks are rolling up, and so are the Sturmgruppe, and they'll mow down those rifles, Piet.
Yep. There we go, you haven't spotted.
Yeah. Wow. That could have been a game-changing move right there. And unfortunately, the poor British riflemen are getting gunned down in the open.
We're seeing a whole heap of Gurkha rifles being brought in to try and hold the line, but the main thing is that Ghosty just has so much fire support with all the armored vehicles and machine gunners. Yeah,
down south though, Ring. Down south, the Panther A Fuhrer died.
Whoa.
He pushed it right forward, and a 17-pounder saw it and said, bye-bye.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Got a little bit too cocky. Yeah, 17-pounder on the hill position is just... That's a Gucci spot. Looking at its line of sight, it can see right down the road.
Yeah, real Gucci, actually. And I'm surprised, Ring, he called one down south there, knowing there were 3 17-pounders at one point advancing in that opening. It just seems like that's the one place you don't want to send the Panther tank.
Yeah, maybe just get stuck.
Yeah, you're just gonna send the poor stuck crew up there to die. But we do see this push is going in, but the half-track gets blat by the Piet. The Piets, they were tired of our disrespect. A pen-train shot on the Panzer IV-H there as well, but a lot of arties dropping right here. Actually, I think what the off-map might be clutch here if Tanner had it.
Yeah, give him just enough time to set up a better defense, but the German artillery is on point. Like, this massive blob of Indian and British infantry have just been completely stunned. Yeah, the problem is Ghosty just does not have enough infantry in the correct position right now to actually continue his push. He has the fire support for all the tanks, but as we keep seeing, if you just move tanks into towns, you have a bad time.
Yeah, he does have the fire support, like you said, and Tanner's been a little sloppy, I think, on some of his fallback micro. He's really invested it down south, and a lot of this infantry up here, we see these Gurkhas. I mean, they are triple vet right now, so they're hard to kill, but a couple fallback orders there would have saved both squads, and this one's losing HP now as well. But the Hummels have been murdering the infantry here in the middle.
Yeah, just deadly fire. We're seeing a bunch of machine guns being brought in. Another huge rave. Rave 2 of Operation Barbarossa.
Black 41 dead.
Oh. Big Owl.
Oh, but look at this point dump here by Mr. Ghosty, Rain.
Yeah. Just a huge amount. Yeah,
that's a multiple minutes of just chilling there, trying to get up enough. He wants instead of maybe sitting in 2 each tick, he decided that he was just going to wait, 3 or 4 minutes, and he's just going to do a big dump here of half-track laden Panzer Grenadiers. Oh, and there's also Panzer Grenadiers in the trucks as well. So this is going to be, a big moment here in this game. There's not a lot of firepower on this hill for Tanner, and the armor here is basically uncontested. As long as they don't get within Piet range, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, the advance is halted a little bit here for Ghosty, but I do like how he just, saved points. It's something you don't see all too often, because it's just very tempting just to keep buying the constant reinforcements of 2 every tick.
Yeah.
But no, just rating and then falls. Where's he actually? Oh, he's spread them out a little bit.
He's going for the flag on further down the hill line there.
I kind of dig it, actually.
Yeah, there are some Piet teams spread out here, but he has a Pack 40 for support. The Guerrilla's up there as well, plus other Panzer Grenadiers, so they are running out of MG42 ammo.
I think he will just have enough infantry in the center to clear us out. I think maybe 1 or 2 extra half-tracks would have helped, but he still has a lot of fire support.
Yeah, and these Vickers have been brought up here, but they're not going to do anything against the Tiger and the SDL and the Panzer IVs. I'm not sure what killed the 17-pounder, but that's definitely dead. And I don't see any... There's one further south here, but it's just a bad angle. Spitfire diving in to try and get some damage. Oh, he's trying to kill the Guerrilla. The 541 might get... Yeah, he's going to get stopped.
Yep.
Yeah, this is actually looking really rough here for Tanner. He's kind of holding on in a couple of spots, but Mr. Ghosty's really just out-traded him in the center for the past, roughly 10 minutes, Rang. And down south, like, that push just... the open field charge didn't really work.
No, it didn't. And just zooming out here, it's pretty obvious to see yes, Ghosty is traded more efficiently. There's just so much more blue stuff than red stuff right now. I mean, Tanner's artillery, like you said, has done pretty well, but 2 of the guns are actually completely out of ammo, which is not ideal. And he doesn't have proper supply trucks.
No, he doesn't. So if you actually look over at his, quickly look over his deck, he has none. Yeah, he has no extra supply trucks. So that's why I said earlier, he's actually completely relying on calling in more artillery pieces to resupply his own artillery, which is just a losing... When you get in this kind of situation, that's just a losing move.
Yeah, once you get into the grind, it's like you don't need more artillery, especially at this point. He just needs ammunition for him. So
you gotta bring up the gun. You gotta steal the ammo from that gun real quick and say, hey, I'm sorry, bro, but my gun crew needs it more than you do. It's just, that's a really rough spot to be in, especially, Rang, when you've invested so much of your, at least to us, so much of your game plan was relying on those artillery pieces to win the fights here.
And you're seeing this as getting desperate here for Thanos. He's using the Crusader AAs in a direct fire support role, and well, they don't have AP shells like in Warfighter, so it's not gonna go good for him. Oh, actually, okay, they killed 1 half-track. Good.
Yeah, they got the half-track right there.
Yeah, they just have to kill like another half dozen vehicles. It's a Crusade.
Yeah. They're on the Crusade right now. They think it's TID-98. The problem is that the Tiger E or the Panzer IV, I'm not sure how they're gonna kill that.
No, they're gonna need one heckin' big of a side shot.
You know what I mean? Like all of the side shots. It's like a War Thunder, when you're like in the AA vehicle and you're the last dude alive on the team and you're just desperately trying to fight on. And that's kind of like what those Crusader AA pieces are.
Yeah. So just send in the reserves. We got some Shermans being thrown in, but yeah, this is pretty obviously a Ghosty big dubs. I mean, this is the southern side of the hill. Just Panzer Gren to hell and back. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and it's also funny how the infantry superiority has completely gone into Mr. Ghosty's favor with a deck of Großdeutschland, which infantry depth isn't its thing, right? It's a lot of, it's got specialized infantry, you can get it really elite, you get a lot of pioneers, but numbers, depth, that isn't what it does well. Yet here we see in the German infantry have absolutely trashed the Indians.
Yeah, I think it's mainly just all fire support, which just really gave them the leverage here. It's just in the middle, it's all just the armored vehicles. Up north, it's Stug 3, down south, Stugs once again. While the Indians, you got the Shermans, but they weren't really able to really utilize the Shermans effectively just because of all the armor.
Yeah, and we also didn't see a lot of Shermans brought out either, Rang, and no Shermans early, where they could have maybe made a bigger impact. Instead, you had the commander plus the 2 A pieces that was brought out right away, and also all of the Spitfires plus their recon, brother in the sky, they were all called out initially. So that's a lot of points invested really early in this game, in non-ground units for fire support, and Ghosty recognized that, and opening with that Flak 41 proved to be, a really game-winning move.
Yeah, just being able to completely control the ground game here, and of course, Tanner had the artillery and also doing decent, but he just didn't have enough dudes on the front, and he ran. I also think maybe just, he wasn't like super hard up north, Tanner, but he could have definitely been a bit more aggressive in the center to completely get it under his control. Like we saw right at the start, there was like 2 dudes and a flamethrower holding the hill.
Right. No, absolutely. In the hill position, especially, that typically dominates and dictates the game, and it does that in this one. It took a longer period of time for it to happen. But there's a solid almost, it's 5 to 8 minutes where Tanner could have taken the middle of the hill anytime he wanted to. He could have just Q moved, and the rifles pit would have got the mission done. Instead, he played into Ghosty's bluff.
Yeah, that's a really effective bluff. Just enough to hold the front line. Yeah, goes Tanner. He taps out, and pretty standard KD ratio.
Yeah. Nothing really, I think, necessarily jumps out to me. The way the game played, to me, that looks really normal, right? That's, you could tell Mr. Ghosty at about probably the 8-minute mark really started to get into the driver's seat of the match.
Indeed, and then just looking at the kills here, it's really on the kill side. The 17 pounders are the main MVPs here. And then losses. Wow, that MG42 definitely Rissy's on the beaches of Omaha.
Yeah, they put him in the wrong spot. He's over there fighting the 8th Indian Division for some reason in the middle of Belarus, I'm not sure why he's there, but yeah, they needed him on the different side of the front.
Yeah, we got like a few Panda Grenadiers, some of the half tracks, and the Tiger obviously doing pretty well. Yeah, some actually pretty good
I didn't see that Tiger die to the 17-pounder.
No.
One of the 17-pounders got a Tiger kill. I didn't see that actually happen.
Maybe it had a suppressor.
Yeah. I don't know. That's funny.
It's technically a recon unit now.
Recon.
Mm-hmm. But no, that was like a very effective player from Ghosty. He leveraged his division better.
No, I think so too. He played the map a little bit better there. And I think Tanner, when you have Tanner's side of the map, if you can win the center of the map initially, you're in such a good position moving forward. He had the A phase off map. He didn't use. I'm a big proponent of A phase off map, as my old channel would know. So it's interesting to see that there were tools in the deck that I just don't feel like he maybe because of the Gross Deutschland itself, right, Rang, but he really didn't bring to bear.
Indeed. What any other thoughts, Mr. Graham?
No, that was a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me on.
Indeed, and thank you very much for watching. And as usual, please just take it easy.